Hey, how's it going? So I just wrapped up a project for the DesignTO Work Life Prototype exhibit, and I just want to go over the process that took me from sort of the idea that I had from the start to where the final prototype ended up. So the project is basically a portable home office storage solution, and I wanted something that you could basically use anywhere in your house to kind of create a new workspace. So the project got started with some inspiration from some equipment that I've got, starting with this kind of camp chair, this lounge chair. So this thing basically has some sort of structure in it. It's got some foldable parts on the sides, and I thought it was interesting how it kind of collapsed together and gives you sort of a portable solution with some kind of exterior pockets on the outside. So I thought this would be interesting to try to convert this into sort of a work desk scenario. So tri-folds. So I thought it might be interesting if it could be somehow arranged in some sort of a position where you could either use it as a basically like a blockage, or not a blockage, but like basically you could have it set up in a vertical position, so you can kind of create this work life separation. So your work is down here when you're you can set up your computer and stuff, and then it kind of blocks out some distractions and stuff like that from around the house. So I thought this was an interesting kind of starting point. Now trying to get this to work in some sort of a vertical or top orientation where you could have it as a platform had a little bit of shortcomings. So let's put this off to the side here and keep on going. So the next sort of iteration was this super quick to put together cardboard crappy mock-up. So it's starting to have some instances of where I want to be able to use it to create some structure. So I'm thinking of origami and kind of being able to fold the pieces in on each other and maybe use the sides to create some structure within the shape. So maybe I could have something where it pinches together and something like that, where it could be bending and allowing it to create that structure. So maybe there could be some snaps or magnets or something like that, some Velcro bits on the outside, so everything would sort of fit and be able to snap together. So this is starting to get a little bit more dialed in even though it's cardboard, and then kind of sketching out some ideas on the sides of where the pockets and things like that can go, and then potentially on the inside what that could look like. Maybe there could be some slots here for a laptop to fit in, some dividers here for some papers, and I mean, this is a super high level idea. So from this I'm gonna move on to the next prototype, which was this prototype that basically it's kind of going from your very basic beginner stuff. Takes 2 minutes to put this together. So now I went and grabbed some materials that I was thinking of using. So again, with it in the vertical position, I'm thinking maybe it could be used as like a shroud around, kind of almost like create a cubicle space sort of in your house. So here, again, we're looking at some of the ideas that came from the original chair, which a little pocket on the outside. And then now I'm starting to integrate some of the materials that I'm thinking of using. So having a felt material on the inside, now you can start to have some pockets in there, some dividers. So this is a thicker felt than this. So just trying to see how that kind of could work, and potentially, they're not super strong here, or in terms of being able to hold everything. And then now I was also able to start working on this hinging mechanism on the side. So I've got some Velcro in the corners here, and then some Velcro on the outside part. So I'm using this to try to figure out how this can work. So, and being able to fold those two together and snap them into place. Now you're starting to get some structural elements that can start to hold their shape a little bit. You know, again, it's just testing, trying to see how this stuff could work. So, you know, it'll hold a position here. It allows you to get it into the vertical orientation, you know, for the sort of the first configuration of the office setup. Now, from here, being able to move into the vertical platform where you can connect these two together, and you can start to get a work base, you know, that it stands on its own. A couple of the problems that I ran into here, though, is that it's fairly shifty. It's not very strong. You know, looking at where and how this structure comes together and this forms, starting to think about that and kind of how that can be changed and modified to make it a bit stronger. So kind of moving from this shape here with, you know, starting to get the materials a little bit, getting a little bit closer to where to where you're going, even though it looks very, very hacky. But, you know, to be able to start to use the materials you're planning on using, you can start to see kind of the properties and how everything can work together. So put that over there. So again, because I had some issues with how the structure works and how it's holding up together, I started to look at some other products and some other inspiration to try to see what could be done. So that led me to good old Apple. So the iPad has this smart cover on it, and it's got a few of the elements that I'm trying to incorporate in terms of some rigid structure inside the fabric. In this case, a soft suede on the outside and a leather on the a soft suede on the inside and a leather on the outside. And then it's got these elements where it's still quite flexible and foldy, but then it can be configured into a structure that has some shape and some strength and some rigidity to it. So, and the other thing too is there's some magnets. There's some hidden magnets in here. So I didn't rip this apart, but I did find some teardowns online showing me how this was put together. So I thought this was very interesting. Again, starting to think about how I could integrate this into my design and kind of borrow some of the thought processes and ideas in this. So taking that, let's put that back on the cover here. I grabbed a little tiny piece of paper, and this is what I actually started to do some more origami shaping with, and origami folding, and trying to see how if there's a better way that this can be folded together. So again, with this, I can start to sort of scale back down, kind of going back to your cardboard stage. But there's some stuff that I knew already worked, but here is where I can start to get the folding together. So again, it's very small, but this allowed me to basically come up with a new way of folding. So instead of folding everything to the inside, I started thinking about how I could fold it to the outside and fold the interior support structures in place. So this, even though it's very simple, it really helped me to get some ideas down, and then in particular this corner and how everything is gonna get put together. So where did I had another piece of project here to go? Is it in here? Yeah. So here we go. Let me get to this. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. So let's come back to this. So with this structure and this corner, I started to work out a small instance, because I know that the rest of it sort of works. I know that the flat structure with the shapes and the board material will be sufficient for the strength. What I didn't know was how this corner will work. So in this corner, I've got some magnets. So I've got this arranged basically in the same orientation as this paper, right? So I've got, this would configure the large portion. This would be the flaps on the sides that would be bent together. So there's some magnets embedded in here. There's a couple here and then two here. So these two magnets are to hold the first section closed together, and then the magnets on the exterior, or I guess not exterior, the interior here, and interior here would be to form the corner. So again, what I was trying to do is have something that you could use one hand and fold it in place. So closing it, holding this back, and then basically getting into the vertical position is your first step, and then the top part can be done separately. But this allowed me to play around with the corner, in particular how this material bundles up, how much spacing is required in the support structures to allow everything to fold together, and then to see if the magnets will actually work. So with this was a big proof of concept, even though it's just a small kind of random piece of boards and magnets and felt. This one really helped to make the project sort of kind of move forward and go into its final direction. So from here, I'll get this out of the way here. From here, I went to the sort of first round of the vinyl. So I switched up the materials a little bit. Originally, I was planning on having it completely surrounded in felt with a felt on the inside, but in this case, the vinyl on the outside helps to protect the product itself. So again, this is designed to be moved around the house. You might put it down on a table where someone was just eating. There might be a mess there. If that's the case, then you can easily wipe this down. So I switched to a vinyl. These materials I didn't get a lot of opportunity to experiment with a lot of different kinds of material. So these are what these are what I used for the proof of concept and trying to get a finalized idea. But there would still be a lot of, I think, experimentation with different materials, maybe more sustainable options. I definitely know some instances in the middle, in the felt material, that could be much better. So I'll get to that in the final model. But so this is, again, moving a little bit closer to the final direction, changing the materials on the outside, and then experimenting with the positioning of the magnets and whatnot. So this, I learned some things because there were some issues here, particularly with the clearance and how much clearance is necessary for the material to work, and for basically the spacing for the magnets. So these are all inset down into the structural material, which took a lot of time, and your alignment has to be bang on. So there was definitely some tolerance issues here. The idea is starting to work a little bit better, but I think it can be simplified. And the other thing is knowing what to do with the additional material. So there was a bulk of material here that was cleared away. So I tried magnets on this side and they weren't working, so I tried something else on this side. The snaps, which also didn't work. But again, I'm learning with this, right? So that's the idea. You're going through these iterations. You're going through these steps. Each time you're going to be learning something new. You're going to be making mistakes, but that can be carried forth to the next round. Or if something needs to be completely revisited, then you can step back if you need to. So here, this is getting a little bit closer to the final design in that the folding is a little bit different, where I can have the exterior structure on the outside. So this portion here is where the angle of this is what drives the angle of the legs, basically. And then this is what gives the strength for the top-down vertical. So again, problems that I ran into with this one were the amount of clearance, and I basically didn't allow enough space for these to move and bend. So they're super tight and they don't actually go into their final resting position, which, won't be beneficial because I can't get this to work the way I wanted it to. So I was a little disappointed with this, but I learned what I need to do for the next one. So that's the shape and the orientation that it should be in when it's in the tabletop. Again, because it's not snapping or it's not sticking in the corners, I wasn't allowed. I didn't get the structural integrity that I was looking for with this. However, if I clamp the corners down, I put, I think it was a 25 or 30 pound vise on the top here, and it's it held up. Like there's only an 1/8 of an inch particle board in the middle here, and it's holding reasonably well. So again, taking this to learn what I can do next. So the vertical position works just fine. There's no issues there, but it's the tabletop that allows the additional functionality that I wanted to try to achieve with this one. So let's close this up and look at sort of the final version of where I'm at right now. Again, because I think there's still some steps and some material choices that I could use. This is where I've gotten to, but I don't think this is the end of the process. It definitely isn't at the end of the process. So here I've got the outside pocket. Again, this was something that I played around with in terms of how it'll be built and how it will be put together. So it's single layer felt, but I doubled it up in certain areas where I thought that there was some structure lacking, basically. And when I sewed it up, I also included a couple pockets on the inside for some additional items. So what's interesting is that this can be, you can put all your, I guess, your peripherals. Let me just get a couple of items here. So this is a charger. You can slide some stuff in there. Let's get a book in there. So you can put some items in here. The idea with this is that when you go to set it up, you take out your charger, you take out your items that you're going to work with, and then you can start to put it into its kind of configuration. So what you can do is you can open it up, set it up into its vertical position, and then have your area to work. Set up your laptop, whatever. So to configure it into the tabletop position, you can open it up, and then again, using your hands, that's what you're going to use, open it up, fold the two structural elements back, put them down in place, and then fold it into the magnets. So now that'll snap in the bottom, and then you can basically do the same at the top, where you open these down and then fold the top down into the magnets. And then once that's there, you're set. So again, I think there's still some experimentation I can do with the positioning of the magnets and being able to have them in, I don't know if it'd be a better spot to work, but I've been able to use this, and it actually works quite well as a tabletop work surface, on the couch, on a chair, anywhere you can have additional support on the sides. You can use it on the ground, and in the vertical orientation, you've still got access to the pocket, right? So, you know, if you wanted to set this up, pick it up and move it, you can have any items you need on the surface itself, pick it up, move it over to the wherever you're going to work. But then you can also carry this stuff in the pocket on the side. So again, you can take that, pick it up, and go. So, so that's sort of where I'm at with this. A couple of the areas that I'd like to be able to put some additional time in, additional iterations, would be this exterior pocket. I just think the design of it could be refined a little bit more, and then maybe make it something that's removable. Yeah, right now I have it stuck to the outside surface. I don't know if that's the best position for it. Again, this is something that more extensive testing would be able to answer. So I've gotten to use this a little bit, but not on a significant basis. So the other issue that I noticed is that the felt itself is not the best material choice for something that kind of should stretch. So essentially, the pocket I have here would be for a laptop or something like that. Well, no, it's for a laptop. The pocket here is for a laptop. But then you have some additional pockets on the outside. Oh, this is another area that I thought was kind of came after the fact. But the way that the slots were aligned didn't really give you any idea of how these pockets should be used. So I added in this vinyl on the exterior. And I think that if we were to do this again, just cutting these pockets out would be done in one shot with a vinyl lined on the inside. But this material itself, it would be better if it was more flexible, not flexible, more stretchy, where it could had a little bit of memory, where it could go back to its original orientation. Because you can jam some items in here, and it stretches, it holds it well enough, but I think that over time this will take itself apart basically, and it'll lose its elasticity. So I think some experimentation in the interior materials would be better. The other thing too is the location of the magnets. So these ones are just now, instead of being inset and recessed into the structure, they're sitting on the top of the surface. And again, that was based on some previous testing, and it's to accommodate for the material on the inside here. So as that folds together, it basically creates that gap. So the way this is working, it's again working well enough now. I think some additional testing would be required, but yeah, this is basically where it's ended up. So yeah, thanks for thanks for hanging out in this long-winded video. But just to go over the ideas and then the prototyping process, and how it's not necessarily linear. You might have to go back, you might have to start again, but each time, each iteration, you're going to learn something new and hopefully apply that to the final design. So yeah, anyway, I'll see you around. See you in the next one. Okay, ciao. Ooh, that's a big file. All right, turn this one off. Boop. And then you.